Something okay?
Hi, welcome. It's Sunday morning, and this is While Waiting for Recovery. I'm Haiti, and I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery.
I'm Felice, and I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. And this is it's not on the internet, that's why. And this is our Why Wait for Recovery Sunday morning recovery meeting. And welcome. Hi, girls. Glad to see everybody this morning.
It's a jolly time of the year.
Yeah, for most folks. And then for some of us, it's it's a little bit more difficult.
Something okay? Hi. I'm sorry. It's starting. Just switch your phone. Okay, let's carry on.
Yes. We're going to carry on because we're over here, even though we're not on Facebook yet. Okay, so anyway, we're going to talk about cravings because it's holiday time and because we go to holiday parties and people are drinking and they're eating and they're doing all of those things that we're used to doing as well, especially when we're uncomfortable in a situation, right? Because I know that when we're uncomfortable, that's the time that we would tend to use.
Well, right? I've heard from five people in the last 2 days, food is everywhere.
Okay, yeah, so is alcohol, boys and girls. So are Percocet if you have a good drug dealer.
And so are my emotions at this time of the year.
Are you sure?
They're all over the place.
Yeah, and so your emotions are all over the place. And what we've done in the past to make sure that our emotions are in one place or no place was to use.
To pick up?
Right. People trying to break into the house.
Santa's early.
So we have to stop giggling. So we're going to stop giggling. So anyway, welcome this morning, and we do seriously want to talk about cravings because it's harder over the holidays, and not only is it harder for us over the holidays, but it's we're dealing with people. I believe that we're dealing with a whole lot of people that don't understand that we don't talk to about our recovery, right? And so you go somewhere and they're like, oh, just take a bite of this, and you should try this, and let's have a drink together. We want to celebrate the new year, and what's the matter with you? You don't want anything to eat? What's the matter? You're not going to cheer,
it's
say
only
cheers
just
with me?
one bite, just one sip. So we are back up on Facebook, so I think should we just say what we're doing?
Yeah. So we're still blessed and grateful to be in recovery. I'm Felice.
And I'm Haiti, and I'm a compulsive overeater. I am that binger, purger, food addict, drug addict.
Drug addict, alcoholic, anorexic. Welcome.
And we get together every week, twice a week, to discuss recovery and what addiction is and how it affects us and how do you feel about it?
And how it affects us. And like we said, especially right now that it's the holidays, you guys, it's a little bit more difficult time for us. We are putting ourselves into situations maybe that we don't feel as comfortable being in. And those were the times that actually gave us that excuse. But really, for me to go into a group of people where I'm not so comfortable, the easiest thing to do was to either go high or to have a couple of drinks or to stuff yourself before you get there, so you don't have to deal with whatever it is that's going on.
So I can't stand big groups of people. It's one of my things. So I'm very socially awkward. I get very uncomfortable in my skin. So I absolutely understand what you're saying. So it was a far easier way to go already changing how I felt so I'd be more confident, or that I could keep busy when I was in the crowd by eating or drinking, and all of a sudden get that boost of confidence and become more animated and more engaging and more entertaining and then really embarrassing. So
I hate that part. And the thing is too is that even when you're talking about having something to do, people talk about the food. Oh, wasn't this so delicious? And did you taste the cake that Aunt Selma made?
And what are you eating tomorrow?
Right, exactly. Yeah. What are you making for later? Right.
That always amazes me, how we're sitting, having food, eating, and discussing the next meal.
Yeah. Well, I'm an anorexic, so I don't have to be in those conversations.
I'm Jewish, so this is like part of my culture. So
part of everybody's culture. Yeah. And so, how do you feel about that, Jess?
I agree. I went to a Christmas party recently. I think last week I talked about it a little bit. And initially I didn't know a lot of people, so I offered, and we were standing in first react the buffet, and there was nothing there first. And I was like, I can't even pick up a cracker right now. I mean, I can, but
right.
What am I going to do with it?
Right.
So I just eventually, it was a good realization, actually. I never really thought about it. beforehand, and then I eased into things, and it was fine.
Yeah, and that and at some point it becomes easier once we realize that it's a choice that we make. I remember when I first got clean, actually, anywhere where they were serving a lot of alcohol, I would leave because it would make it easier for me not to be there, where I get to say hi to everybody and I gotta go. And you know, for me, I would say, you know what, you guys, I'm in recovery and I gotta go. And as an alcoholic, everybody I know understands that. Pretty much, so everybody understands it. But as a food addict, I don't think that people do have that understanding. So it makes it a little bit more difficult, right? And they do tend more to say, you know what, it's okay, you just have one.
What?
Go ahead, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, I was at an AA meeting yesterday, and they had, you know, holiday treats sitting out on the table, and this guy, like, reached for the Danish for, like, the third time, and he was like, I know I shouldn't do it, but I'm going to. And I was like, this is so the mentality.
Right, exactly. That's correct. Thanks for sharing that. That's correct.
And that's actually one of my pet peeves, I must tell you. When I go to some of these A meetings, these meetings ending in A, other than OA, and at least a third people in the room are overweight and they're still in active addiction. So that is like one of my things.
Okay, and why would that be? And so that's because we're passing judgment on others, right?
Well, that's my pet peeve.
No,
yeah.
absolutely. But that pet peeve is because we're judgmental, and we are judgmental.
Right.
That's one of the things that we work on in recovery, right? Is accepting other people for where they are, as opposed to putting our judgment. Remember, everybody gets clean in their time if they're fortunate enough to get clean. And just because we're doing our best to do our best doesn't mean that it's somebody else's time or that somebody else cares.
Right.
You know? So they figure as long as I'm not drinking, as long as I'm not shooting up, it doesn't matter if I gain 300 pounds. We know different because we look not at what we're picking up, but the reasons why we're picking up. And so cross addiction is cross addiction. We know for us that keeps us in active addiction, but everybody else has. Right? And I think sometimes we get aggravated too because it's like, well, I'm not drinking and I'm not drugging and I'm not eating the cookies. So that's not fair.
Well, for me, it's like coming to celebrate multiple years clean and out of
Exactly.
champagne.
I agree 1,000%.
So that's my issue today.
Thanks for sharing. Karen.
Good morning. You know, this is so relevant because I've had two separate neighbors give us gifts, one of which was a really long package of 4 different sections of cookies. And the other one was some sort of candy. And, you know, I took a nap on crunching, and my husband was crunching this stuff, and I said, what are you eating over there? He said, it's butter brickle. And I said, oh, good, it's not my favorite. He said, well, it's not mine either. I'm like, well, why are you eating it? And I would have done that too.
No, of course. And I got a bottle of wine. Oh, I have to
So
re-gift that.
It's always, like you say, it's always there.
Right. And I got a bottle of wine, of course, as a Christmas gift from somebody that comes to my office. And that's okay. And so now I have a free bottle of wine that I get to re-gift to somebody who's not an addict. But yeah, you know, sometimes it's that little bit of an
I
ouch.
took most of the cookies home.
Yeah.
Right. I took most of the cookies home with other people and rest, and I don't really care. So
Good.
I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, and it does help too. You're doing real well. And so that does help to put you in a different place, correct? Right? Because we
It
do.
really does. It
Yeah.
does. It's
Right. And remember, you know, I love that quote, we don't see the world the way that it is, we see the world the way that we are. And so when we're doing well in our recovery, it makes it a whole lot easier for us not to pick up. As opposed to when we have that feeling of unrest and uncomfortable, like you said, in our own skin, it makes it pick up. And so that's the stuff that we're working on in our lives. Correct?
I'm just struggling with it. Easier to pick up because I think I can pick up for any reason, just even.
That's true, but it gives us the excuse. And
That's
so
the
remember,
thing,
as
is the
addicts,
excuse.
yeah, as
Right.
addicts, especially when we're not strong in our recovery, we'll look for any excuse to pick up. So we get to use that as one of our excuses.
And the part that I feel really uncomfortable with is in those situations, I think it's to make other people. So that becomes my real excuse, okay, of why I'm going to use, because people then I start going, well, she spent all the time in the kitchen and she was cooking and she was doing all of this, and maybe it's a small group of people, and I feel that under pressure. That food pressure thing is a really strange thing as a food addict, especially with someone who's had bariatric surgery, because half the time I feel like I have to explain why I'm not eating as much. Besides the food choices I've made, I've also got to explain why I'm not sitting down to huge plates of food.
Why do you feel that you have to explain that?
Because I constantly feel like people are asking me, is that all that you're eating? Why are you eating enough?
And why do you care?
Because I do care. I am codependent.
Okay, and that's our ego, right? So it's what we think others think of us.
And
right?
in this,
How are they judging me or viewing me?
right, and in the same way, today is my birthday. So the thing was always on the birthdays was going out to eat. And my thing now is food doesn't speak to me. I've had bariatric surgery. Food is not part of my world, but it's part of my family's world. And I said, you know what? I'd rather go watch a movie. You know, there are other things to do, but all of a sudden there's a whole ripple down of shifting a paradigm that we've been doing from all for always.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you guys something. With that, if you're post-bariatric, and I have to say this, and your wants to take you out to eat, and you say, I'd rather go to a movie, and that affects them, that's really too effing bad, because that's like my kids coming over and saying, you know what, Mom, we want to take you out to a bar to celebrate your birthday. And me saying, I'm not going to go to a bar because I'm not going to go to a bar. And that would be my answer, no, I'm not going. Because I don't really care. I don't care about how they're going to receive, no, I'm not going out to a bar. Because I know their life looks a whole lot worse in the long run if I do go out to that bar. So sticking up for ourselves in our recovery and not knowing that we're doing what's better actually for ourselves, which in turn is better for everybody else. I ain't going to a bar because somebody wants to take me out for my birthday. I ain't going to a bar because somebody wants to celebrate New Year's Eve with me. I'm not going to do it. I can't do that, and actually that's a boundary for me. And so we talk about in recovery, you guys, the difference between acceptance and boundaries. There are a lot of people out there that are alcoholics in recovery that feel super comfortable going to a bar. I ain't that girl. I am not that girl. So for me, that's a boundary of mine. Just saying. That isn't a thing of me accepting others for where they are. Me, it's not okay. Just saying.
I think it's also, for me, it's also that stage in recovery. You know, when you're years in or depending on what it looked like when you stepped in, also makes it easier to be comfortable, firstly, to be comfortable with the boundaries and also to be setting boundaries. You know, food for my family has always been the food thing, and it was always something that we did for birthdays, and it's always something. So when I set those boundaries, there's always that effect that something is a little off, and I get that it's their thing. I really
Like what that is?
Called a sacrament.
Huh?
Sacrament?
Yeah, we're a bunch of Jewish girls sitting here Googling.
so maybe you guys know, is the sacrament, do any of you know about the sacrament and if it's bread?
I feel like it is, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, she's sure it's bread, I think. She just
Okay,
wants to
so
know
let me
that
ask
she-
you a question because I only know about on TV. So listen, on TV, I know that some people do and some people don't. And we can't tell people what to do as far as their religious belief goes. I mean, obviously, we're not going to tell anybody what to do. But I'm going to let that be your personal choice. So I don't really know what to say about that
Okay.
because that hasn't come up.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, but thanks. It's probably a good question that maybe a lot of people are thinking about. I haven't had a chance to think about it, so I don't know. I know that, you know, if they're passing around the plate on the holiday and everybody's having a piece of matzah because they're doing, you know, the prayer, for me, I could hold the matzah. I don't need to eat it.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean,
I think that God is cool with my recovery. That's all I have to say. I think that God
So
is
you
very
would-
cool with the fact that I'm in recovery. And I believe that that's me doing more of the will of the universe.
So you wouldn't drink the wine?
No, of course not.
Right.
Well, you got a pee test tomorrow. You can't drink wine. That's the question.
Yeah, but no, I wouldn't drink the wine when they're saying a prayer over the wine. So yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
That was a really great question, by the way.
I couldn't find it. I don't know.
No, it's okay. That's okay.
It's okay, we know.
How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. Today's 3 weeks clean time.
Yay! Yay, go girl, man. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, I mean,
And you-
even I feel good. You know, I hate that I'm so self-conscious, and I really
Okay.
I'm around people. It's like an ego thing. You think people are looking at you. You think your family's judging you. You think all kinds of crap, and you can't enjoy yourself because you're so worried about how you
Okay,
look.
so let's rephrase that. I'm learning to enjoy myself.
I'm learning to enjoy myself.
Right. And what my family thinks or what anybody else thinks is really none of my business.
And what
You
my
say that?
family thinks or what anyone else thinks is really none of my business.
Right. And I'm doing my best to do my best.
And I'm doing my best.
Right.
to
And
do
you
my
are
best.
doing the next right thing and you have 3 weeks clean. I'm so proud of you. So that's so awesome. Listen, the stuff that you worry about. So you're worried about Uncle Sam looking at you and judging you. And when you leave the house 15 minutes later, it doesn't matter. Because maybe Uncle Sam is judging you. Who cares? That's about Uncle. That ain't about you.
Right.
Right? What's about you is you doing your best to do your best so that you can live a life that's more happy, joyous, and free.
And I feel bad because I do this to Cliff all the time. I'm like, I know it's not about how you look, but I'm like, just tell me I look big. Can you just tell me that? She's like, you look beautiful, you look fine. I'm like trying to force
But
him
you
to tell
are
me.
beautiful, though.
I try to force him to tell me, just say my legs look big, just tell me the truth. I just want the truth. I know that's a terrible thing to.
Whoa. Excuse me. Yeah, so you are beautiful. And that's a feeling that's going to come from within you, whether you weigh 700 pounds or 70 pounds
It always
or,
feels
right,
that
we
way.
always have that thing. So, and that's, people with food addictions do have that insecurity, no matter what that insecurity is, whether we're underweight, overweight, regular weight, whatever. Remember, our beauty actually does come from inside, even though it doesn't feel like that. And at some point, when we're happy, we feel better. So we actually feel more quote unquote beautiful.
Right.
But I don't know, I was never the pretty girl, so I didn't have to grow up like that. You know, I was always really super quiet and, you know, to myself and really super shy. And I wasn't the girl that got complimented on being pretty or not. So it didn't make a difference to me. The only thing that made a difference to me that I was skinny enough to look like a boy. That was the only thing that made a difference to me, so that nobody would look at me, you know, from past trauma. So that part I get. But as far as that goes, though, I want you to focus as much as you can on, you know, you don't look at yourself in the mirror. So you know you're pretty. Okay, you're pretty, you have beautiful hair, you've got a beautiful face. That's stuff you have. It's not about that, right? It's about how you feel. And if you look at yourself in the mirror lately, your whole affect is so different. You're so much more relaxed. I talk to you and you giggle. You know, you never did that. You were so inside your head when we first met you, and you had this look of being petrified all the time. All of the time. Right? And I don't feel that from you anymore. And so is that still happening? Maybe, but it has to be happening a little bit less because you show up differently. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Really. Ange, good morning, baby.
Good morning.
You have anything to say to us this morning?
No.
She said no, but she'll
Were you
chime in
asking a
later.
question? Was it,
No, we were just
Oh.
talking about holidays and anything that comes up and
like cravings wise?
or anything wise.
No, I think I'm good in that department, depending on the day. But
Okay.
overall,
Okay.
good.
All right. And so, do we have any questions out there that we want to answer? I can't read that far away.
So one of the questions that came up was that I was chatting to a friend of mine, and she was saying that she has about 20 people staying in her house. So besides the space issue of people being there, and they're there for a really long time, they're there for over a week, So you've got all these different people, plus you've got a totally different routine, and you've got some younger kids, and all you're doing is you're cooking and you're cleaning and you're trying to make people happy. And her trying to do her program, I'm trying to fit in meetings and do the things that she's trying to do. She's kind of struggling with staying in recovery and working on her recovery in this time, during this time. So one of the questions is, do you have any tips in terms of staying on track and helping with recovery?
Yeah, and so the most important part of our recovery, you guys, is how we're feeling, right? Not what's happening outside of here, which we do have to deal with, but how we're feeling inside. So to have that understanding that everybody's going to be as happy as they are, you're going to do what you're doing. If you can't get out of the house to go to a meeting, there are meetings online all the time. You know, you could still be journaling, you could still be doing your gratitude, and you can always reach out to another addict, right?
Oh, we forgot to mention, so we are on Facebook. So we've got What's Eating You. Okay, it is a private group on Facebook. We're also on Zoom at the moment. So if you want to jump into the conversation, hop onto Zoom. We can hear you. We can hear your questions. Everything's posted on Facebook on our Why Wait for Recovery page. The login is there in the access. People do reach out on our Facebook in our group, and they when they're struggling, they do ask for help. We in different time zones because people from all over the world join us. So there's always someone who can hop in. Jamie also had a question. She said she's new in recovery. Hi, Jamie. Welcome.
Hi, Jamie.
And what do we consider clean?
Oh, so I need to know, you're new in recovery from drugs, alcohol, what's going on?
For eating.
Okay, perfect. So what we consider clean, or what I consider clean with my patients, is absolutely no starch. No rice, no bread, no potato, no pasta, no sweets, no matter what color it is. None of that. Reason being that our brain, the dopamine receptor in our brain, our pleasure center, which is the same receptor as crack addicts, that dopamine receptor has to get clean so that we can live in the present. And keeping that dopamine receptor clean, how we do that is not feeding it with sugar or starches. It allows us to step into recovery without always thinking about the food, thinking about the food, thinking about the food, thinking about the food, ways and means to get more and to change the way that we're feeling, because we use food to change the way that we feel. And those things, dopamine receptors are pleasure center, you guys. So you got to do other stuff to stimulate that dopamine receptor. Hug your puppy, right, Karen? Go for a long walk, talk to a dear friend, get out of your head, help somebody else in recovery, so that you're doing things that allow you to feel great without eating those things that change that receptor in the brain.
So as a food addict, I also have that element that addiction is a disease. It's not something that I chose to become an addict or decided one day I'm an addict. It's something that I have always known that I am one. And so it's got both that physical thing, but there's also the mental side of the disease that becomes that obsession. And that's what differentiates me as well, is that I know that I'm an addict because once I start picking up those foods, I start obsessing about it. It's almost like I've got an allergy about it, and all I can think about is getting more, finding ways of getting more, and just start doing those old behaviors of picking up on when I'm checking out of the supermarket or going through the drive-thrus, and every second of the day revolves around food or the next meal or when I'm going to eat and what I've eaten, and it becomes the conversation of every second of the day. The minute I pick up one of those foods, instead of thinking, oh, it's a beautiful day outside, the sky is blue, and listening to the radio, my whole thoughts and everything revolve around those foods. So by staying clean helps clear our mind, so we also don't have those thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't have the physical craving and the mental obsession. And it is so much harder, you guys, with the food addiction thing, because I know as an alcoholic, when I walk into a room of 100 people and somebody offers me a drink and I say no thank you, and if they ask why, I'm going to say because I'm in recovery, and that's going to be the end of the conversation. With you guys, a lot of you use that 4-letter word, that diet word, and nobody buys that and nobody cares. So I believe too that if you use the word recovery, and I always say nobody poops on anybody's recovery, if you feel comfortable with using that word, one of the challenges with food addiction is that because nobody sees it really as obesity as the end result of an addiction, or binging and purging as the end result of an addiction, or starving yourself as the end result of an addiction, because really in society we don't view it that way. That is like them when they say, no, just have one cookie or just have one bite, or it's one little bite, we'll go whatever. It's not respected in the same way that alcoholism or drugism or even actually anorexia is respected, because the alcohol or drug addict or anorexic is going to die in 10 minutes. And so the person that's binging and purging, emotional overeatings, because they're probably not going to die when you're seeing them in the next 10 minutes, it's super, super, super disrespected. But you guys disrespect it as well. So we're not standing up for ourselves as being people in recovery. And so I'm not sure how we expect other people to respect the fact that we're in recovery.
Well, the one lady said she's on her pre-op diet. She's having her bariatric surgery this week, and she was very nervous about going out because that really touches on that whole element. Is I didn't go have bariatric surgery because I had nothing else to do. I didn't
have. It's a good way to blow 20 grand, right?
Right, and I also thought that for me, besides thinking that it was the quick solution to losing 100 pounds and that I wouldn't have to change anything and it could just happen overnight and I'd be happy.
Exactly, and you were going to be happy. That was your big thing.
But I did it because I was really miserable. So I had to keep my eye on the ball at the end of the day, is how miserable I really was when I made the decision to go see the surgeon, to decide to have someone to slice me open and go through what I knew was major surgery, because it is not a joke. People do die from surgery as well. And there are also complications, and your life will never ever be the same again. But the thing is, going in with that, I also had to commit to doing what I was doing and changing things, because if I let things stay the way that they were, nothing was ever going to change. It's great having the surgery, but after you've lost that 100 pounds and after the first year, or even after the first 6 months, the cravings come back and the foods are still there and the behaviors can still be there if we don't work a program of recovery and committing to where we are. So yes, we go out for dinners and we do things, but I had to commit and say, listen, I am pre-op, but I'm not picking up these things because this is part of my commitment to me, to a healthier and a different kind of way of life, because everything changes.
Yeah, and pre-op, you guys, I'm going to tell you, it's like going into a treatment center. I've never seen anybody walk into a drug or alcohol treatment center, and I've been in drug and alcohol treatment centers. I've never seen anybody walk into a drug and alcohol treatment center clean. I mean, it's just not the way that it is. And so whatever your behaviors are before are going to be your behaviors before, and we can promise you that it ain't going to serve you after. It's definitely not going to serve you after. And, if you could get the recovery aspect of it, I think before, I'm not really sure why people don't do their best to step into recovery before the surgery, so that when they get out of the surgery, when they're post-surgical, it's not as difficult.
Because most of us are in active addiction when we step into surgery.
And that's also a part that's not touched on, right? It's not like you went to your doctor and your doctor said, hey, your obesity is the end result of some kind of addictive process. Go get well while we're doing this, right? Change how you are spiritually so that you can be changing all the way around, not just getting thin and miserable.
Well, the doctors said that depending on how you go through the process. So if insurance is going to pay for it, you go through the 90 days of treatment with a therapist, or 6 months, depending on your insurance and what it looks like. But you'll go through treatment with a therapist, and your doctor's assuming that your therapist is going to take care of that aspect. They focus on the physical components of the surgery and doing that. And a lot of the doctors also don't give you proper protocols. So you go through these surgeries, they become extremely cheap to do. If you don't have insurance paying you, you can go pay out of pocket and have it done. But there's no real guidelines once you come out of it of what the rest of your life looks like after you're 3 months out. I mean, there's also, people don't touch on that. But that, I think, is a whole different discussion as well, because we're getting questions. Yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, yeah, we do 6 months therapy and all of that stuff, and the nutritionist and whatever else not. But that's not the same thing as recovery therapy, because I had been in therapy for 5 years. and they just backdated it all, even knowing that I was having the surgery, and there was nothing new for her to say to me. It's just the same stuff you keep working on. So I think just to add to the conversation that the recovery part is an important dynamic, and I was lucky enough to meet you guys a couple weeks before.
Just before.
Yeah. So.
Right, and I think that's something that we definitely going to go more into, because I know that we've been working and talking to different doctors about this, and this is something we're going to discuss more.
Yeah.
Because I know today's a short session, and we are having a lot of questions. I'd love to tap into some of these. So one of the questions that came up is about eating sugar-free during the season. I just wanted to also say something. We are not a diet and supplement club here. It's not what we do. And sugar-free is just one of those things that, as an addict, I can have issues with sugar. And it's whether, it doesn't matter if it's sugar-free, if it tastes sweet, if it's fruit, if it's whatever it is, it's how I respond to it.
I'm sorry. I'm into it.
And no matter what anyone tells you, if it's sugar-free, calorie-free, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's affecting you, you know what your triggers are. Because if it's something that you start obsessing about and something you start changing and switching, part of my obsession is I start switching out different things to get the same effect from my original drug. And if that is sugar, if that's starch, if that is whatever it is, I start switching the almond meal, I start switching the sugar-free, I start all those head games, which is part of the mental obsession for me. That becomes a really difficult place for me to play.
And I'm going to address that as from a medical standpoint. Actually, I'm going to address it from a physiological standpoint. So when you're having sugar-free cookies, you guys, it's still starch. It still stimulates the dopamine receptor. If you're having sugar-free pancakes or if they have sugar-free everything, just means that they didn't add sugar. It doesn't mean that it's not starch. So, and these questions sometimes are questions that we ask because we're hoping that somebody is going to say that it's okay. Right? Jess is shaking her head. Thank you, Jess. Yeah. So, no, it's not okay. Anything that's a starch is going to stimulate that dopamine receptor. Anytime we're stimulating that receptor, that's like me asking, wow, you know, I'm addicted to oxycodone. But you know what? I have a headache. So is it okay for me to do Fioricet? No, it's not. Even though it's not oxycodone, it's not okay that I do butabutol. It ain't okay. It still stimulates whatever receptor it stimulates in my head. So no, you know, you guys, chicken, fish, and veggies and salad. Like, if the whole entire planet ate like that, first of all, we'd all be a lot healthier. But for people who are addicted to sugar, that stuff converts to a simple sugar no matter what color it is. And that I'm always going to stand strong on. And that doesn't have anything to do with diet. That has to do with our brain and our dopamine receptor and our not triggering that physical craving. Because with the physical craving comes the mental obsession, and that's the definition of our addiction. Of the physical part, right?
So someone posted that she's had 2 other members in her family who had weight loss surgery. She's very concerned about going to these holiday events, and how do you deal with it? So I just wanted to tell you, I'm 3rd generation of people with food addiction. My father had weight loss surgery. I had it. Other members of my family have had it. People I'm related to have had it. Nothing changes if nothing changes. You know, there's part of it is definitely some people are born as addicts, and some things happen to us and we become addicts, and everyone's different.
They have no idea. They have no idea anyway, yeah.
But the thing is, for me, if I'm going to a place that I'm not sure what they'll be serving, or there's a chance that there's foods that I can't eat, I'll either eat before I go or I'll take food with me so I can look after me. Because at the end of the day, if I don't look after my recovery and make it paramount, I'm not going to have that. To me, it's the most precious thing I've got, because when I'm happy and healthy, I'm happy and healthy, and the people around me are also happy and healthy, because I can be the best person I possibly can be to my kids in terms of being a mother. What they do with it is on them, but I just feel that I'm more kind, compassionate, and loving when I'm in recovery to myself firstly, and I can be a better person in this world, just generally speaking, because I'm happier and I'm healthier.
Yeah, and we have to remember, you guys, that picking up is a choice. Just like staying clean is a choice, right? And so I can walk into, for me, I can choose not to go, and I feel totally comfortable doing that, and I do that often. Or I could choose to go and not pick up. that's my choice as well. And so we want to remember that it's not so much of a I can, it's the choice that I'm going to make, so that tomorrow and New Year's, or for the next 10 seconds or whatever it is, that I'm not walking around guilty and ashamed and wanting to jump off a bridge because I'm using.
So Jo Carroll also just posted, she said that, you know, she's been drug and alcohol free for 6 years. I'm a drug addict, food addict. I just swap one addiction for the next. So when I'm in an active addiction, I may be clean on food, but I'm using pot, or I'm smoking cigarettes, or something else was what I was doing in the past. When I'm not in recovery, that is still using. Whatever it is that we're picking up to change the way that we're feeling or to get out of the moment is still active addiction. It's something I've learned. So what Felice was saying about
Yes.
not going to certain places, I can smell pot in a 10-mile radius. I'm that sensitive to it, and I absolutely love it, okay? But it doesn't love me in my system. And that is one of the things that I have to really stay cognizant of. So I cannot go to places that I know that it's going to be around there. So I make certain choices at the end of the day, what is the most important in my recovery and my health, whether it's worth going or it's not worth going. And the people that are going to be upset are going to be upset anyway. And if they're smoking pot, they'll forget about it in 10 minutes anyway.
Right.
And those that value me and love me will know that I'm doing it because it's the best thing for me.
And you know, you guys, I haven't had a drink in 10 years. So does that mean I get to raise my hand and say that I have 10 years clean? No. I relapsed 2 years ago on oxycodone. So yeah, I haven't had a drink in 10 years. Do I want to keep different clean times? Well, I've been clean from alcohol for, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. I used 2 years ago. It doesn't matter what I used. It doesn't matter. The fact is that I did use. Whatever choice I made was the wrong choice, obviously, at that time. So to say, and I'm glad that you touch on that, because for drugs and alcohol, and we talked about that, where in the rooms, and without judgment, but in the rooms, we see a lot of people that stop drugging or drinking, and they've gained 150 pounds. So they're still using, they're just using something else that's stimulating the dopamine receptor instead of cocaine, which kept them nice and skinny. You know what I mean? It's the same. So yes, you get to raise your hand and say, I haven't had a drink in 10 years, but if I'm drugging or if I'm using something else to change the way that I'm feeling, then I'm in active addiction.
So I haven't touched a starch since the 17th of February 2016. Okay, that is one of the things that I know. So the sugars, the starches, that's something I haven't touched for a really long time. But I also know in the back of my head there was always that conversation. Well, you haven't touched it for over a year. Maybe you're over it now. Maybe you can just pick up once because, do you know what? It's been so long. Maybe you can eat normally.
Right, and we don't eat normally, we don't drink normally, we don't drug normally. That's just not the way that our brains work, you guys, no matter how much we want that to be true. And that goes back to the every time I pick up on a lie. You know, it's going to be different this time, and it's only going to be one, and nobody's going to know, and I'll start again on Monday, and all of that crap, that whether it's food or starving yourself or drugs or alcohol or sex or gambling, whatever it is, that we tell ourselves that lie, there ain't no such thing as tomorrow for us when we're using, for stopping tomorrow. There's no such thing as just one when we're using. There's no such thing as just one time. If there was the thing, if I could do it just one time, or if I could stop on Monday, or if it's going to be okay because nobody's going to know, I wouldn't be sitting here at this meeting, right? I'd be Christmas shopping, right? Because I wouldn't need this meeting because I wouldn't be an addict. You could probably smoke one joint. So my next door neighbor can have 14 drinks tonight and not drink again for, and not have it ruin his whole entire life. And somebody else can eat some chocolate chip cookies and it doesn't affect them the way that it affects us. But in addiction, there's no such thing as just one or just this time or I'll stop tomorrow. Doesn't work like that for us.
Well, it starts off that no one knows.
Well,
And then
of
all of a
course no
sudden,
one knows.
we know, and then all of a sudden the guilt and the shame, and that starts setting in. So the first day may be okay, depending on what it is and how far into our recovery we are, because the longer I'm in recovery, the more precious it becomes. And I know that if I pick up, I'm going to feel terrible about it because I picked up before and I felt awful. But it seems that if that happens, I don't want to, the shame and the guilt that I feel is insurmountable. And it's not like I've done things before expecting different results, because I know what happens when I pick up. When I pick up, I don't know how long that binge lasts for, if it's going to last for an hour, if it's going to last for a day, if it's going to last for months or a year. I just know that it's inevitable. I know I'm going to end up feeling guilty and ashamed. And I know that I'm going to be miserable, and really not only miserable in myself, I make the people around me miserable as well, because I'm living in pain.
Yeah, and what happens, you guys, when we do pick up is that shame is immediate, and then that shame and our ego keeps us stuck in scared, and keeps us from reaching out. I could have reached out to somebody after a day, right? As opposed to 6 months or whatever it was. So it keeps us from reaching out. Our ego does, and our embarrassment and our shame keeps us from reaching out oftentimes. And then we're just deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in it. And then we're spending $30,000 at a treatment center in Tennessee. Doesn't work out. Didn't look real pretty for me.
And with that shame and guilt, when it comes to me, I become very judgmental, because I carry that in me. I start judging, because I judge myself so harshly, and I feel such extreme shame and such extreme guilt. I think everyone else is judging me, and it becomes my window to the world. So I'm extremely judgmental, and then I think everyone's watching me. It becomes that whole thing, and they judging me according to my own standards of the way that I see myself.
Yeah, and we tend to isolate as well. Right? And we start lying. We start lying to everybody. We start lying to us, and we start lying to everybody else. That's the really fun part, you guys. Lying, remembering who we lied to, remembering when we told the lie, remembering what lies we told ourselves. It's exhausting. Really, active addiction is horrifying. It's a horrifying place to be, and it's exhausting, and it's sad, and it's scary. And it's a really horrible place to be. And we talk about how, recovery, it isn't easy. If recovery was easy, then everybody would be doing it. But recovery is awesome. It's so nice not to have to remember if you already told that person that lie.
Yeah,
it's like so
and keep
nice.
Track of them.
Right.
Isn't it, how hard is it juggling lies?
It's
and then a week
exhausting.
later you've forgotten them. Okay, and then you get bust, and
Right.
then you say sorry so easily.
Yeah, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Right?
That
It's
is
one lie
so
after
true.
another lie after another lie after another lie. Were you going to say something, or just changing hands?
Oh, you can. I'll say.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what's nice about being having clean time and working on recovery. For instance, yesterday I was with family, and I brought my meal to the beach because I knew I'm gonna get stuck with nothing. And then then we went upstairs. They ordered pizza and rolls and all that stuff, and it felt nice that although it feels awkward that you can't eat and stuff,
Did
but
you choose not to?
I chose not to.
Right.
It does feel nice that I don't have to pick up those things, and right after the guilt and the shame and then the constant thoughts of, I gotta go purge, I gotta go this, I could just leave it there, and that's it. I don't have to carry it all day.
That's right.
It
And you
feels
guys, with that,
better.
immediately I binged, and I'm gonna purge. You got every purger out there knows that your purging can be the last time you ever do anything, right? Right? Esophageal varices, you purge that last time and you bleed to death. And bam.
And the other thing is being present in the moment, because when I was really purging, I was timing it. So I had a certain time that I had to go purge, and I'd be eating and stuffing and then watching the time so I could go to the bathroom and do it. So that's being present in the moment without even thinking about that, just being able to enjoy it instead of planning of what the next step is.
Or I have to hurry up out of the bathroom. I have to do this. I have to do that. Or you think somebody's watching you in the back. It's just
And
that
spraying
paranoia.
and, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And having
so-
the water on really
Yeah.
loud so nobody hears. Right?
Husband not on top, so it just feels better that it doesn't have to be that
Yeah,
way.
even though recovery is hard sometimes, it's a whole lot easier than being in active
easier.
addiction,
It's
and
easier.
feels a whole lot better. Recovery feels a whole lot better, obviously, than being in active addiction.
Oh, yeah.
And we get to be proud of ourselves, because we're doing the right thing, and because we're put ourselves in a position to give back to the universe.
The other thing with the holidays is pretending to really be happy and into it. For some of it, it's also very emotional. Some people are not that into the holidays. Some of us are lonely. Some of us really don't have the best families, or you know, our relationships are not that clean and fun and that exciting. And some of the holidays are very, very trying and very emotional. And for someone who really tried to numb my emotions for years and years and years, dealing with emotion isn't an easy thing for me, especially when I can't pick up.
So how do we do that?
So how do we do that?
Yes.
Is the big question.
So the big question is, first of all, we walk in gratitude. Anytime you feel like crap, say something out loud that you're grateful for. Reach your hand out to somebody else, you guys. Get out of your head. Reach your hand out to somebody else. Find out how somebody else is doing. See if you could do something kind for a neighbor. Reach out to somebody else that you know is in need. Go feed people that don't have food. Like, get out of here and do something for the betterment of the universe instead of sitting in your own poor me. Sorry. You know, it's really the way to do it. What are you grateful for?
So we believe in sharing gratitude every single day. So every day we post 3 things that we're grateful for, and we also like giving kudos to where we are, that we do have strengths, because as an addict,
We do.
I forget that I am capable of doing things very often. So our strength for the day, and the strength is based on the principles from the A programs. So where we post is, it doesn't matter how you get that out. If you journal it, if you want to join our closed group on Facebook, if you want to text us, if you want to message us, we're going to have a forum on our website where we can share it. Because one of the nicest things about not only posting gratitude is seeing what other people are grateful for, because it doesn't have to be that big. It can be really the simple things that I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to get out of bed today. You know, a lot of addicts don't make it. The person sitting next to you might not be there tomorrow, because addiction kills. It really does. And to be able to hug that person today and just tell them I love you is a tremendous thing. And also to be able to have eyes that see and ears that hear and just have bodies that function in the way that we do. We're very, very fortunate to have it. And people who love us, or puppies, or anything that we've got in our world that makes our lives a little bit better. We just are fortunate.
Yeah, and even the little things, right? We were looking through my stuff yesterday. I found this peace sign bracelet, you guys. I think they were selling it for $1.25 at Walgreens about 9 years ago. And it's yellow, and it's got a little peace sign, and it was $1. And it makes me so happy. And so I'm so grateful that I found it, because it's so cute. Really, I mean, I know you're laughing, but that's the stuff that I need to remember sometimes. Because also, yeah, of course, we're grateful we're alive, and we're grateful for all of that big stuff, which is so important. But I have a snowflake on my pinky, right? And even my patients, when they're in a bad mood, I'll tell them, you know what, look at the snowflake on my pinky. Isn't it so cute? It makes me so grateful, and they crack up.
I love it that it's on your pinky.
Yeah, it's on my pinky. But still, so there are those little tiny things too, you know, that you can look at as well. You know, you have your favorite soap to use, or your favorite bubble bath, or you read something that was amazing, or you smiled at somebody in the grocery store and they smiled back, you know, or you said happy holidays and Merry Christmas to somebody, and you went out of your own head and did that, and that made you grateful. You did something for somebody else, and you're grateful that you're in a position where you can do something for somebody else.
And also, I love that, you know, part of being in recovery is that we learn to do things for ourselves as well. And as a food addict, one of the things to stop that obsession, because I can think about food 24 hours a day if I really go down that path and really start obsessing, is to have a food plan. Whatever that food plan looks like doesn't really matter. It depends on you and your nutritionist and your healthcare provider, whoever that is. But it's something that helps me not focus on food, because I know it's taken care of. I know preparing for the holidays is important to me, because that is one of my issues. Dealing with food is something that is part of my world that I need to take care of me. And you know, when I take care of me, I feel good. I don't sit there expecting my husband to read my mind or my kids to know what I want, because I've already taken care of it. And I'm just happier doing that. They can eat and do whatever they need to do, and God bless them and let them enjoy it. It doesn't mean to say that I've got to put my recovery at risk or put myself and my health at risk by doing things that I know that are bad for me, just to try and make other people happy. Because at the end of the day, who's making me happy? You know, it's got to also start with me. I've got to take ownership of my own happiness, and I have those choices. If I have the choice every day to wake up happy, isn't that a fabulous choice to have?
Yeah, and you guys, also being in recovery allows us to ask for help, right? Because when we're not walking around just with our ego, if I'm not walking around thinking, well, if I ask Sarah for help, she's going to think I'm weak, you know, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not, if I'm not caring about that, it allows me to call Sarah and say, hey, Sarah, you know what, I'm struggling a little bit today. I'm going to give you my 15 minutes worth of caca, and then can you help me step into the solution? Right? So it allows me to say to others, you know, I'm feeling a little off, or I'm not feeling as strong, and I need some help right now. You know, I need to know that you have my back. And that's okay too, right? And that's part of our recovery as well.
And part of what we do is we have the 2 meetings a week. So we meet up on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and we meet up on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. so that we can reach out to each other and talk to each other, because we are a community and we understand it. No one understands an addict like an addict understands an addict. We talk a language that no one else gets. When you talk to a normal person about taking food out of the garbage and keeping it for later, they don't get it, okay? When I talk about eating off other people's plates when I was a server and storing that food and taking it in takeout containers so I could eat it in my car later, no one gets that. When I talk about purging and doing the stuff and planning it and running the faucet and doing all that kind of stuff, no one gets it except our community.
Yeah.
So this is why we stay connected.
Yeah, and you know, nobody understands either how you could get through your day every single day eating a half of a bologna and cheese sandwich, 4 squares of chocolate, and that much milk,
And pretending
and then
everything's
eating a
okay.
box of X-Lax. Right.
Right. And
Right, and you look great because you look skinny, and that's all people tell you is, wow, you look so great, you're so thin, you know, while you're killing yourself.
I was the
It's
happiest
awesome.
fat person. I was the happiest person, 150
Like Allison
pounds.
was.
Right. You looked at me, I was the biggest jokester, I was the happiest person, I was the most fun to be around, and I was miserable on the inside.
Yeah.
So everything looked great on the outside, but on the inside I really was killing myself.
Yeah, I looked pretty happy when I was drinking too. I did. For a while, until I didn't.
Right. And then the people around
We
us
weren't
weren't
so happy. Yeah, exactly.
I know, that's part of the other side. So,
Yes, it is.
so there are other things that we can also do. Reading also helps us stay, you know, opening ourselves up. Our worlds become very small when we're in active addiction. It becomes this little space on top of our shoulders and top of our neck that becomes all about us, and stepping out of it is so important. I was chatting to a friend of mine who was saying, you know, no one reached out to him during Thanksgiving. He was getting really depressed. No one had texted him. And then he thought, why don't I just text people? And he did. And he said people started responding because, you know, some people are lonely and some people feel exactly the same way. And sometimes being that first person to put your hand out goes a really long way, and it shifts it. So instead of sitting in that wallowing in woe is me, be the person that reaches out to others, and be the person that sends that text or makes that phone call, sends that message, and makes someone else's day. You know, and by doing that, it's amazing. When you start giving, how much you start getting. Just giving of yourself makes me happy.
Right, and that's what we get. You know, when they say, you know, when you give, you get back so much, it's not that if I give you a gift, I get back a gift. If I give you $1,000, the universe gives me back $1,000, although that's for some reason the way it works for me. But never, but it's a truth, right, Susan? But it's a truth, but that's never the intention. And so when your intention is just to give, the giving, for me, makes me so happy. And that's what I get back. The giving of that gift, the giving of my hand in your hand, the giving of a compliment, the giving of a smile. It, I don't know, for me, anything that I give makes me kind of giggly. It does. It lifts my spirits. You know, and it doesn't have to be something monetary that I'm giving.
And I'm Jewish, so halakhically, which is according to Jewish law, the greatest level of giving is anonymous. So if you can give without people really knowing that you're doing it, not only leaves you feeling the best, but you also take away that expectation of wanting something in return. You know, many times people do things expecting something. I picked you up and I took you here and you didn't do this, and it becomes the whole what have you done for me lately kind of song and dance that leaves us feeling miserable and terrible on the inside.
Yeah, you guys, if you're giving because you need somebody to do something, stop it.
Just ask.
Yeah, if you want somebody to do something, ask them. You don't have to go through that whole manipulative thing. Well, and I did this, and yeah, we are Jewish. And I do so much for you, and how could you not? Whatever. You need me to do something, ask me. You know, if I'm doing something for you, it's just because I'm doing something for you, not because I want something back. Expectation sets us up for disappointment. Correct?
100%.
Yeah.
So we're reaching that stage that we are all about to go off and join our families.
And Felice is going to read the promises, even though I can't see it, from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because that's where I grew up. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that the universe does for us what we can't do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We don't think so. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly, but they will always materialize if we work for them. You guys, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. I'm so blessed and I'm so grateful to be here with you guys. Thank each and every one of you. I'm so grateful for every one of you for helping me to stay clean and stay in my recovery. My name is Felice, and this was our Why Wait for Recovery Sunday morning meeting.
And my name is Haiti, and I'm so blessed, firstly, to be here, because there's times I didn't think I would be. Also, just Merry Christmas. Enjoy this time with your families, your friends. It's a very special time. There's a great energy in the air as well. Be part of that light in the world, and just really enjoy your recovery. And we will see you Wednesday night at 9 p.m.
Wednesday night.
And
Peace out, you guys.
everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
Hanukkah, everybody.